This is an introduction of triads on the guitar. Triads might not be real exciting for you, but they're the foundation for all harmonic sounds, I think, on the instrument. What we're going to do, the very first performance thing that we're going to make you do, is we're going to just take the C major chord and we're going to look at the guitar so that we can see all the notes, C, E, and G, and all the different ways that it's presented on the instrument. We know how to spell a major chord by taking the first, third, and fifth notes of the major scale. Okay? What we're going to do is we're going to reduce the guitar to 3 strings, which would be the highest 3 strings, strings 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to look at our next guitar is going to be strings 2, 3, and 4. Our next guitar is going to be strings 3, 4, and 5. And then strings 4, 5, and 6. And we're just going to play all the C major chords first on those different sets of strings. For those of you that have taken the pop guitar class, we essentially did this on the highest 3 strings, strings 1, 2, and 3. But let's kind of review that. The C major root position triad would consist of the notes C, E, and G. So if you find the note C on the G string, E on the B string, and G on the E string, this is the picture that you have. That's a root position chord. If we were to invert those notes, now I'm going to take the note C and put it at the top. My note E is going to be at the bottom. It's going to be E, G, and C. That's a first inversion C major chord. The next inversion of that is I'm going to take that E and put it at the top and keep the G and C at the bottom. So then we have sort of 3 different ways of approaching this C major sound on the highest 3 strings. A root position sound, first inversion sound, second inversion sound. That's what I want you to try to be able to do on all the sets of strings. Let's look at the next set of strings and try it. This would be our root position C, E, G on the next set of strings. That's my first inversion chord, and that's my second inversion chord. C, E, G, E, G, C, G, C, E. When we go to the next set of strings, I'm actually going to start with the C, E, G way up here. E, G, C here. G, C, E. A lot of these shapes are going to be familiar to you. And then the last set of 4 strings, the strings 4, 5, and 6, the C, E, G. So it's slightly out of tune, C, E, G. E, G, C, G, C, E. What you should notice is that the shapes or the pictures that we've run into on that set of strings is identical to the ones we ran into on strings 5, 4, and 3. The root position chord, C, E, G, looks the same. The first inversion chord, E, G, C, looks the same. And the second inversion chord looks the same. That's because the guitar is tuned consistently on that set of strings, on all 4 of those strings. So you'll run into sort of like the same shapes over and over again. What I would want you to be able to do to start off with is using a metronome, which we would always use in this class, thinking at about a tempo, somewhere just a slow tempo, 60 to 72, that you can play up and down the neck of the guitar all the C major chords in half notes. Set of strings. I'm starting on the lowest sound. I'm going to repeat that, and I want you to think like second inversion chord, root position, first inversion, root position, second inversion. Now I'm going to the next set of strings. First inversion, second inversion, root position, second inversion, first inversion. The last set of strings, second inversion, root position, first inversion. Okay? Once you get good at that, we're going to ask you to do exactly the same thing. We're going to modify the chord. We're going to use the other 3 common triad types, and that would be the minor triad, the diminished triad, and the augmented triad. And the reason I'm doing this is I want to make sure that you have encountered every major, minor, diminished, and augmented picture on the guitar sort of before we go ahead. So to make the major chord minor, we always have to find the third. That's the note E in this case, C, E, G, and we have to lower it. So that's going to be good for us because when we go from chord to chord, we're going to have to see where is that third. So just sort of looking at the very first set of strings that we did, that's the E. To make that a C minor chord, I would have to lower the E to E flat. When I go up to the first inversion chord, that's the E. That's what I have to lower to make that C minor. That's the E. I have to lower that to make that C minor. Then, and I would want you to walk through the rest of the strings using your metronome again, just being able to kind of like walk through all the C minor chords the way that we just did with C major. The next chord would be C diminished. We have to look at that C major chord and lower the third and the fifth. So the three notes are going to be C, E flat, and G flat. Okay? I'm going to do that on the strings 2, 3, and 4 so we don't always work on the same strings. That's my C major root position chord, C, E, G. C diminished means I have to lower the E and the G to E flat and G flat. This is my first inversion. E, G, C. I've got to lower the E to E flat, the G to G flat. This was my second inversion chord. I'm going to lower the E and the G. And so then you would walk through the guitar with all of your diminished chords as well. And then the last chord that we would do, this one's kind of neat because it's always going to end up looking the same on a given set of strings, is the augmented triad. C augmented is the same as C major, but we have to raise the fifth. So the fifth is C, D, E, F, G. This is the note G. We have to raise it to G sharp. So looking at the next set of strings now. So now I'm on strings 3, 4, and 5. Okay? I'm looking at this first inversion C chord and saying that's E, G, C. To make it augmented, I've got to raise the G to G sharp. Okay? Now notice that fingering. I'm sort of going 3, 2, 1. Here's my next C chord. This is the note G, C, and E. To make that an augmented chord, I have to raise the G to G sharp. It's pretty cool. It looks the same fingering. And then my last C chord, which was C, E, G up here in the 12th position, I want to raise the G to G sharp. So the augmented chord is actually kind of it's a symmetrical chord. The same collection of notes sort of exist a major third above each other. So what we would have accomplished at this point then is we have covered the neck of the guitar. Our first sort of performance objective is taking a single chord, C major, C minor, C diminished, C augmented, and being able to kind of walk up and down the strings at the tempo, as half notes at the tempo of 60.